LAX with a ticket for Flight 409 to Seattle. It was a work trip, a break from my librarian life in LA. The terminal buzzed with energy. Women in bold blazers, men in wide-collared shirts. A teen's cassette player blared, "Don't You Want Me," cutting through the crowd. The plane gleamed silver, Flight 409 written on its side, promising a smooth ride. I adjusted my purple blazer, clutching a briefcase. The past year had been exhausting. Late nights cataloging books. No time for myself. My boss insisted on this conference, a chance to pitch a new project. The brochure showed a modern jet, cassette players in every row, plush seats. I boarded, the air thick with jet fuel, spotting an MTV ad on the wall. My stomach fluttered with anticipation. A young man in a leather jacket lingered near the gate, watching passengers, a notebook in hand. He boarded after me, sitting across the aisle, his presence heavy. The cabin filled with the clatter of trays, stewardesses in red uniforms passing pretzels. I settled in, a VHS screen flickering with an old movie. The engines roared and we lifted off, the city shrinking below. The journey had begun, but a strange tension hung in the air, a whisper of something I couldn't yet name. Flight 409 felt like a time capsule, alive with 80s vibes. I leaned back in my seat, my purple blazer warm, flipping through conference notes on library tech. Passengers chatted. A man sipped coffee. A kid's Game Boy beeped nearby. A stewardess offered a drink, her red uniform crisp. A TV screen showing a Pepsi ad with Madonna. The flight started smooth, the hum of engines steady. LA had been a blur, dusty shelves, endless quiet, until this trip forced me out. A cassette player offered radio hits, the cabin glowing with nostalgia. I glanced out at the clouds, the plane cutting through a golden sky. But a faint vibration in the seat made me pause, the engines shifting pitch. That leather-jacketed man scribbled in his notebook, his focus intense. A flight attendant passed, whispering to another about weather updates. Her hands trembled as she poured water. The plane jolted, trays clinking. I looked at the man, his eyes cold, then back to his writing. The stewardess forced a smile, but the air felt heavier, a quiet warning I couldn't shake. The sky darkened, clouds thickening around Flight 409. I gripped my briefcase, the leather cool against my palms, staring at the storm outside. Passengers shifted, a woman clutching her purse, a man tightening his seatbelt. The cabin lights dimmed, the captain's voice cutting through. "We're hitting rough weather. Stay seated." My pulse quickened, the air heavy. The plane rocked, trays sliding on carts. A stewardess moved quickly, muttering about wind shear. The leather-jacketed man leaned forward, his notebook open, pen moving fast. He signaled a stewardess, his voice firm. She nodded, tense, heading to the cockpit. The engines whined, a high-pitched strain breaking the hum. Passengers murmured, a kid's cassette player skipping. The cabin tilted, oxygen masks swaying. The man's stare met mine, sharp and calculating. I pressed against the seat, my stomach lurching with each jolt. The storm was closing in, its roar seeping through the walls. The lights flickered, a stewardess stumbling in the aisle. Something was wrong, and the weight of it pressed down on us all. The storm tightened its hold on Flight 409, rain lashing the windows, thunder rumbling. Passengers gripped seats, a kid dropped his Game Boy. A woman whispered to her child. The cabin lights flickered, the captain's voice tense. "Severe conditions ahead." I held my briefcase, the air growing heavy with fear. The plane bucked, trays crashing to the floor. A stewardess checked masks, her red uniform stained with spilled coffee. The leather-jacketed man stood, shouting orders to her, his notebook tucked away, She obeyed, hands shaking. The engines coughed, a grating sound cutting through. The cabin groaned, a loud crack echoing. A passenger gasped, staring at the wing. The plane tilted sharply, my stomach dropping. Lightning flashed outside, illuminating the chaos. The storm raged, its fury shaking the walls. I braced against the seat, the roar deafening. The flight was spiraling, the sky turning against us with a vengeance that left no room for doubt. A deafening crash shook Flight 409. The plane lurched, trees rushing up through the windows. Passengers screamed, masks swinging wildly. The captain shouted, "Brace for impact!" The fuselage slammed into the forest, metal screeching, branches shattering glass. My briefcase flew, the impact throwing me forward. A deafening crash shook Flight 409. The plane lurched, my briefcase flew, the impact throwing me forward. My body slammed into the seat in front, the force knocking the breath from my lungs as the fuselage ripped through the dense forest. Glass shattered around me, sharp shards raining down, while the cabin tilted violently, seats tearing from their bolts. The captain's voice cut off mid-shout, replaced by a horrific screech of metal against trees. Her wing snapped, its debris crashing through the ceiling, sparks flying as it gouged the earth. The plane carved a chaotic path, its nose plunging into a muddy ravine, water splashing up from a hidden stream below. The tail spun, slamming into a towering pine, the impact sending a shockwave through the air. Flames erupted near the engines, black smoke curling into the misty canopy, the scent of burning fuel mixing with the damp pine. The forest floor erupted in chaos, roots ripped apart, a cluster of moss-covered boulders tumbling down a slope, revealing faint traces of an old hunter's cabin, its rotted wood half buried under vines. Claw marks scarred a nearby oak, hinting at a bear's recent presence, while a distant howl echoed, adding an eerie edge to the scene. Passengers screamed, their voices blending with the groan of the dying plane. A stewardess stumbled, blood trickling from her forehead, as she dragged an unconscious man toward the exit. The leather-jacketed man, Jack, kicked open the emergency door, shouting, "Out now!" Smoke choked the cabin, a woman's cry turning to silence as she slumped over her seat, already gone. I crawled, my heels snapping under the pressure, hands scraping the jagged floor. The heat from the fire pushed me forward, the cold forest air hitting my face as I spilled out, landing hard on the muddy ground. The wreckage hissed, a final groan echoing, the ordeal stretching into an uncertain future. I stumbled into the forest, my blazer torn, the wreckage smoking behind me. The plane lay broken, its nose in a ravine, flames crackling at the tail. Trees loomed, their branches tangled overhead, the ground slick with mud and leaves. Passengers scattered. A woman clutched her arm, blood seeping through her sleeve. A kid sobbed near a broken seat. The leather-jacketed man checked bodies, his face grim. Smoke stung my eyes, the air heavy with pine and ash. I sank to my knees, the damp ground soaking my skirt. A man lay still, his eyes vacant, already gone. The forest buzzed with insects, the silence broken by moans. The man dragged survivors, his voice rough. "Stay together," he said, his jacket torn. I helped a young mom, Sarah, her toddler whimpering in her arms. Her face was pale, eyes hollow. The wreckage hissed, a piece of the cabin collapsing into the stream nearby. Claw marks on a tree caught my eye, a bear's territory. The old cabin's ruins sat in the distance, vines choking its walls, a reminder of how isolated we were. Night was falling, the cold seeping in, our chances slim. Night cloaked the wreckage, the forest, a dark maze. I shivered, my blazer gone, the ground cold beneath me. The plane smoldered, flames casting shadows on the trees. Passengers huddled, a man bandaged a gash, Sarah rocked her silent child. The leather-jacketed man moved among us, checking pulses, his face set. 2 more lay still, their bodies cold. The air froze my skin, dampness clinging to my skirt. I sat by Sarah, her toddler's weak cries piercing the silence. A branch snapped, animals scurrying away. The man, Jack, distributed torn jackets, his own shredded. "We'll make it," he said, his voice strained. A woman sobbed, her companion lifeless. 3 dead now. The forest rustled, a distant howl echoing. I held Sarah's hand, her warmth faint. The wreckage creaked, the stream's trickle a haunting sound. Claw marks glowed in the firelight, the ruined cabin a ghostly silhouette. I thought of LA's quiet nights, now replaced by this ordeal. Jack's steady hands kept us alive, but the cold bit deeper, the night stretching on with no end in sight. Dawn broke, gray light filtering through the trees. I stood, skin scratched, no blazer left. The plane was a charred ruin, its nose sunken in the ravine, the wings still impaled on the pine. Smoke mixed with mist, the air heavy with ash. Passengers stirred. A man coughed blood. Sarah cradled her toddler, his cries faint. Jack paced, counting survivors. 5 dead, he said, voice flat. The forest woke, birds chirping, their sound clashing with our grief. I adjusted Sarah's blanket, her face pale. A branch cracked, the wreckage shifting in the mud. The stream reflected the pale sky, mossy boulders standing like silent guards. Claw marks on the trees loomed closer, the ruined cabin's shadow, a grim reminder of our isolation. A man groaned, then stilled. 6th loss, Sarah whispered. He's gone. Her voice broken. I held her hand, my own trembling. The sun rose, offering little warmth. The forest stretched endlessly, our hope fading with each hour. Jack shared water from a broken cart, his hands steady but tired. The wreckage groaned, a final piece collapsing into the stream. We were alone, the weight of survival crushing us. A helicopter's roar broke the silence, rescue crews charging into the wreckage. I stood, skin raw, holding Sarah's hand. Her toddler stirred, a faint cry rising. Medics rushed stretchers, sirens cutting through the air. The forest opened, lights flashing. I asked a paramedic, "Anyone else?" His nod was grim. 6 dead. The plane's charred frame lay in the ravine, a wing still caught on the pine, the stream running black with ash. Medics loaded bodies, the scene a blur of red and gray. Sarah's toddler clung to her, alive but weak. Jack stayed close, his jacket scorched, face lined. "We lost good people," he said, voice heavy. I nodded, tears mixing with dirt. The hospital was stark, flickering lights, clunky machines. A nurse patched my cuts, saying, "You're strong." The news blared. Flight 409 crashed in a storm. Jack sat, quiet. "The pilot stayed," he said, "to give us time." My breath caught. The forest had hidden a hero, his sacrifice a silent weight on us all. A year passed, the pain a constant shadow. I lost my job, books scattered across my desk, my focus slipping away. LA's hum felt hollow, a ghost of its former self. Nightmares ruled my sleep, trees crashing down, faces fading into the smoke, the plane's final groan haunting my every move. A doctor diagnosed me with PTSD, a term that meant little in '85, offering pills that sat untouched on my shelf. Friends drifted, their voices a distant murmur of, "Move on." But the weight wouldn't lift. I'd found that note in the wreckage, its edges singed but legible. "If I don't return, know I stayed for them." The words gnawed at me, a mystery I couldn't solve. Jack visited one rainy afternoon, his jacket mended, his face etched with lines of memory. "The pilot was my brother," he said, his voice steady. He held the controls, kept us alive for 24 hours. My breath caught, the revelation sinking in. A stranger, a brother to Jack, had given his life for us, his sacrifice hidden in the chaos of that forest. Sarah's card arrived months later, a simple note with a photo, her son, now thriving, named James Jr., after the pilot. I visited her, tears streaming as I saw the boy's bright eyes, a mirror of the courage that saved us. In 2025, I'm 78. My hair a soft gray, standing at James Jr.'s pilot graduation. The ceremony buzzes with pride, his uniform crisp, his speech about honoring his uncle's legacy bringing a lump to my throat. Friends and family surround me, their smiles warm. But my mind drifts to that crash, the muddy ravine, the smoking wreckage, the howl of the wind. The sky took a hero, left me with a quiet peace, a connection to a man I never knew. James Jr. approaches, his handshake firm, his gratitude a gift I never expected. I touch the small pendant he gives me, engraved with James, a token of survival. The crowd cheers, but my heart carries the weight of that day, a story of resilience etched into every step I take since.